What if the person who could change your life forever wasn't a doctor, a celebrity, or a tech billionaire, but a barefooted kid sitting outside a hospital with a towel and a rice pouch? In a world racing for answers through machines and money, sometimes the miracle walks quietly. No fanfare, just faith. This is the true-to-life story of Kavi, a boy with no title, no shoes, no parents, and the powerful transformation he sparked in a Silicon Valley CEO and his paralyzed son. What began as a whisper on the streets of Oakland grew into a movement powered by belief, patience, and the unshakable will to show up. If you're looking for proof that small people can do big things, if you've forgotten how healing starts, keep watching. This is more than a story. It's a reminder that hope often wears socks instead of capes, and that real leaders don't always lead with their voice, but with their presence. Stick around, because by the end, you won't just believe in miracles, you might become part of one. What would you do if a barefooted kid with a bamboo bag told you he could make your paralyzed son move again? Would you laugh? Would you walk away? Or would you stop and listen? That morning in Oakland wasn't unusually cold, but it had the kind of dampness that clings to your clothes. The fog hadn't lifted yet, and the sun looked like it had forgotten to show up. On MacArthur Boulevard, cars groaned down the avenue. Horn blasts, coffee cups, tired faces peeking from behind windshields. No one was looking around, except one boy. He sat at the edge of the sidewalk, knees pulled to his chest, drawing in a weather-stained notebook. His name was Kavi, 11 years old. His skin was the color of roasted almonds. His curls were tucked under a knit scarf wrapped twice around his head like a makeshift turban. He wore a faded green jacket, 2 sizes too big, and instead of shoes, just thick socks, worn, threadbare, soaked through. Beside him sat a cloth bamboo bag, soft and bulging. Inside, a jar of some kind of oil, a hot rice pouch, still faintly steaming, and something that looked like crushed leaves in a paper wrap. He wasn't begging, didn't speak, didn't even look directly at anyone. But he watched, always watching. Across the street, parked half illegally beside a fire lane, a Tesla Model X idled quietly. Its battery hummed low. Inside sat Leon Barrett, founder and CEO of StratoSync, a man who once filled ballrooms with his voice, who now barely spoke above a whisper. 52. African American, salt and pepper stubble, wrapped around a firm jaw, eyes like he hadn't slept in weeks. He used to be the face of American innovation. Now he was just trying to hold his family together. In the back seat was his son, Arlen, 10 years old, a Lego t-shirt stretched across his chest, his legs covered in a thick fleece blanket with astronauts on it. He stared out the window, didn't blink much, didn't move at all. Before the accident, Arlen used to run. Everywhere. Parkour. On playground railings, flips on trampolines, climbed trees like a squirrel. Until the day a light rail train skipped its signal. Hit the car. Crushed everything from the waist down. That was 14 months ago. Since then, no movement, no hope, just appointments, reports, and, careful, practiced silence. Leon climbed out slowly. He didn't dress like a mogul anymore, just gray joggers, old hoodie, no watch. He opened the back door, lifted Arlen in one practiced motion, and started toward the hospital entrance. He didn't see Kavi, but Kavi saw him. He watched the way Leon carried Arlen. Careful, protective, like he was holding something that could disappear. He saw Arlen too, how the boy's eyes stayed fixed. The cloudy sky, how his hands clenched the blanket just a little too tightly. Kavi stood up softly, not a sound. Then he spoke. "Sir," he said. Leon kept walking. Kavi said it louder this time. "Sir, I can help your son move again." Leon stopped, not because he understood, but because the voice didn't sound like it came from a kid. It was steady, serious, like truth wrapped in calm. Leon turned. Slow. What did you just say? Kavi stepped forward, still barefoot, still calm. I said I can help your son. Leon looked at the boy, then at his socks, then back at his eyes. You know how ridiculous that sounds? Kavi didn't blink. My grandfather used to treat people like him, he said. He taught me how. Leon narrowed his gaze. Where's your grandfather now? Kavi's voice dropped. Gone. And your parents? My mother passed. My dad left before I could talk. Leon stared. One long moment, then he turned and walked inside. Didn't say another word. But in the silence of the waiting room, something in Leon's chest started to stir. A question he hadn't asked in months. What if? Leon sat in the hospital hallway, elbows on his knees, head lowered. He could hear the muffled chatter of nurses behind the intake desk, the faint beep of machines from other rooms. Arlen was inside with the therapist. Same woman as last week. Same hopeful eyes, same careful phrases. We're seeing small signals. Progress is non-linear, and of course it's still very early. Leon nodded when spoken to, smiled when he was expected to. But his mind wasn't in the room. It was outside, back to that boy with the bamboo bag. Kavi. The name hadn't even been spoken, yet it was echoing in his brain like a bell. He had no business believing that kid, none, and yet something in the way he said it. Not selling, not pretending, just knowing. Like he believed something Leon had forgotten to believe in. Hope. Real, dangerous, foolish hope. By the time Arlen's session ended, the sun had climbed halfway over the skyline. It was still a gray day, but less heavy. Leon carried Arlen, out as usual, blanket tucked, shoes untouched, and there he was again. Kavi, same corner, same notebook in his lap. Only this time, he looked straight at Leon, like he knew he'd come back. Leon hesitated. He felt foolish even walking toward him, but he did. Why would you say something like that? He asked. You think that's funny? Kavi shook his head. No, sir. You don't even know him. I don't have to. Leon narrowed his eyes. You're what, 11? Almost 12. You're sitting on a street corner with a rice pouch and no shoes. What could you possibly know about this? Kavi lowered his voice. My grandfather healed children in India without machines, just hands and time. He showed me everything before he passed. Leon folded his arms. So what, you're a miracle worker now? No, I'm just a boy who remembers what I was taught. A passing nurse waved at Kavi like she knew him. A janitor gave a silent nod. This kid wasn't invisible to them. Leon sighed. I'm not giving you money. I didn't ask. Then what do you want? Kavi met his eyes. Just an hour. 1 hour tomorrow, San Antonio Park, near the old fountain. No tricks. Leon glanced at Arlen. The boy's eyes were half closed, silent as always. And then he heard himself say it. Fine. 1 hour, you better not waste our time. Kavi nodded once. I won't. Leon turned, carried his son back to the Tesla. The door clicked shut, engine purred. But in the rearview mirror, Kavi was still there, watching, waiting. Like, he already knew what would happen next. The next day arrived with a kind of quiet that felt unusual for Oakland. No sirens, no shouting in the distance, just a hush over the blocks around San Antonio Park. Maybe the city knew something was about to change. Leon didn't tell anyone where. He was going. Not his assistant, not his board members. He just dressed in jeans and a navy fleece, put Arlen in the back seat, and drove. No music, no talk radio, just the sound of his own thoughts, looping like a stuck record. He doesn't know what he's doing. This is dumb, but what if it's not? What if it's not? They pulled up at 11:58. San Antonio Park was nearly empty. A few older men playing chess under the gazebo. One dog walker, and Kavi. He was already there, sitting on the grass beneath the broken old fountain, bag in his lap, a clean towel spread neatly over the dirt. Beside it, a small bottle of oil, a worn tennis ball, and what looked like warm rice wrapped in a kitchen towel. Leon parked slowly. He didn't say anything at first, just opened the door, lifted Arlen from the seat, and carried him over. Kavi stood when they approached. "Hi again," he said gently. Leon gave a single nod. Arlen blinked at him. Kavi smiled at the boy. "Hi, Arlen. How do you know his name?" Leon asked. "You said it yesterday," Kavi replied. "I remember things." Leon looked down at the towel. "So, what's the plan here?" "No plan," Kavi said. "Just what I know." He knelt and pointed to the towel. "Can I set him here?" Leon hesitated, then lowered Arlen onto the towel. Kavi knelt beside him. He took out the rice wrap and gently pressed it to Arlen's thighs. "Too hot?" he asked. Arlen shook his head. "It's warm," he said softly. Kavi nodded. "Good." Then he began to speak slowly. "Your muscles are sleeping, but they remember. We just have to knock gently." He rotated Arlen's legs gently, not forced, just enough to wake the joints. He used the tennis ball next, rolled it along the soles of Arlen's feet, then pressed lightly behind his knees. Leon knelt nearby, watching, arms crossed, suspicious, silent. "You ever do this before?" he asked. Kavi didn't look up. "My grandfather used to treat veterans in India after war. Some couldn't speak, some couldn't walk. He said all pain is a memory the body keeps repeating." Arlen flinched slightly at a touch. "You okay?" Kavi asked. Arlen nodded. It tickled. Kavi smiled. "That's good. Means you felt something." Leon leaned forward. "He hasn't reacted like that in months." Kavi kept working, slow, methodical, all while chatting with Arlen. "What's your favorite superhero?" "Black Panther," Arlen whispered. "Good choice. He's strong and smart. I like how he moves." "You will again. Maybe not like him, but like you." After 30 minutes, Kavi tapped lightly on Arlen's right foot. "Try to wiggle your toes," Arlen tried. Nothing moved, but he didn't look upset. He looked focused. "It's okay," Kavi said. "We'll ask again next time." Leon stood up. "That's it?" "For today, yes." Kavi stood too. "I don't fix things, I remind them how to work." He packed the towel, the ball, the rice into his bamboo bag. Leon reached for his wallet. Kavi stepped back. "No, thank you." "Then why are you doing this?" Kavi looked at Arlen, who was smiling now, even just a little, and said, "Because he looked like he forgot what smiling felt like." Leon didn't answer, didn't nod, just stared. That night, Leon couldn't sleep. He sat at his desk, screen on, phone buzzing. He didn't check it, he just closed his eyes and saw Arlen's foot. Not moving, but not limp either. Active, engaged, trying, and that one soft laugh, just one. But enough to shake something loose in Leon's chest, something he hadn't dared feel in over a year. Hope. It became a ritual. Every Sunday at noon. Same park, same towel, same 3 people. Kavi would arrive early, sometimes before the clock hit 11:30. He'd find a clear spot, lay out the towel, line up the tools. He always had the same few things: the warm rice, the tennis ball, a little bottle of eucalyptus oil his grandfather used to make, and Arlen always smiled now when they pulled up. Not big, but real. Leon noticed the shift. It was subtle, but every week Arlen seemed lighter, more awake, more present, even if his legs didn't move. Yet Kavi worked with care. He talked less now, let silence do some of the healing. Sometimes, he just asked Arlen to breathe. Other times, he told quiet stories about his grandfather. Apachan once healed a woman who hadn't walked in 6 years. She used to work in the tea fields. Every day, he stretched her legs while singing old Malayalam lullabies. By the 3rd month, she stood, then walked. Said it was like dreaming while awake. Leon listened more too, not just to Kavi, but to Arlen, to the rhythm of his breath, to the way his fingers started twitching during sessions, to the tiny creases of effort forming in his brow. Week 4 arrived cloudy. The park was damp, sky-heavy, with moisture, but they came anyway. Except this time, Arlen didn't smile, he didn't speak. Leon noticed immediately. "What happened?" he asked. setting Arlen on the towel. Kavi looked up. Arlen's lips were pressed into a thin line. He tried to move this morning, Leon explained. Hard. But nothing happened. He threw his brush across the room. Kavi nodded. That's okay. No, it's not, Arlen snapped. I try and nothing works. Maybe I'll never walk again. Leon froze. It was the first time Arlen had said that aloud. Kavi sat down beside him. You're allowed to be mad, he said. I get mad too. Arlen didn't look at him. I get mad when people ignore me. When I can't go to school because they won't let me in without a guardian. When I miss my mom so much it hurts. Silence. Leon knelt nearby. He didn't speak. Didn't interrupt, he just listened. Kavi's voice dropped. One night, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. But my grandfather said something I'll never forget. What? Arlen whispered. He said, when the body gives up, listen to the soul. It'll whisper how to fight. Arlen looked at him now, eyes glassy. But what if my soul is tired too? Kavi reached into his bag, pulled out a folded piece of cloth. It was old, faded red, worn at the corners. This was my mom's scarf, he said. She called it her helper's cloth. Said every time she touched someone with it, she remembered why she cared. He draped it gently over Arlen's knees. You don't have to walk today, you don't even have to move, but you do have to try again next week. Promise? Arlen didn't answer. Not right away. Then, okay. That session was quiet. They didn't talk much. Kavi warmed the rice, pressed the pressure points. Let Arlen sit with the scarf on his legs, eyes closed. Leon joined in. He massaged Arlen's feet with the oil. Clumsily, Kavi showed him where to press. Here, he said, right behind. The ankle, that's where the memory lives. By the end of the hour, Arlen hadn't moved his legs, but something in his shoulders softened. A small shift. Sometimes victory isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the choice to come back next Sunday, and they did. Week 5 started with blue skies, but by Sunday clouds were back. A cold wind blew through San Antonio Park, the kind that made people stay in. But Kavi came early, as always. He laid out the towel under the same broken fountain, placed the warmed rice wrap to the side, stacked 2 tennis balls, and waited. But something felt different. Leon's SUV pulled in at 12:04, late. The back door opened with a groan. Leon stepped out first. He looked tense, his shoulders tight, his jaw set. Then came Arlen. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even looking up. Leon carried him like always, but this time, no words were exchanged. Kavi stood when they approached. Hi, he said. No reply, he looked at Arlen. Want to sit? Arlen didn't answer. Leon set him down, a bit rougher than usual. Kavi didn't react. Just placed the scarf over Arlen's legs like before. What's going on? He asked. Leon ran a hand through his hair. He woke up frustrated, he said. Tried to move his knee, nothing happened. He screamed through his cereal at the wall. Kavi looked at Arlen. Want to talk about it? No. You can be mad. I said no. His voice was sharp, like broken glass. Leon winced. Arlen turned away. His face flushed. His hands clenched the towel. It's never going to work, he muttered. I'm done trying. Silence followed. Not even birds, just wind. Kavi sat down slowly, cross-legged, carefully. I was 7 when I stopped talking, he said quietly. Arlen didn't look at him. I didn't speak for almost a year after my mom died. Leon turned his head slightly. This was new. My grandfather would talk to me every night, Kavi continued. He didn't ask me to speak, just told stories, rubbed my feet with oil, lit incense, whispered things in Malayalam I didn't understand. And one day, I whispered back. Arlen's lips parted, barely. I'm not trying to make you walk today, Kavi said. I'm trying to make you remember that you still can hope. No, I can't. Kavi tilted his head. Then sit, be still. But let me be here. Arlen exhaled, long and shaky. Kavi got to work. He didn't ask permission, just started warming the rice again. He placed it gently on Arlen's thighs, then rolled the tennis balls beneath his feet, pressed behind his knees. Arlen didn't respond, didn't react, but he didn't stop him either. Leon crouched nearby. For the first time that day, he spoke. "You ever think of stopping?" Kavi nodded. "Lots of times." "What keeps you going?" Kavi thought for a second, then said, "The faces of the people who stopped too soon." Leon stared at the ground, then at his son, then at Kavi. "You're 11, he said. Kavi looked up. 12 next month. Leon almost laughed, but it came out more like a sigh. "You're better at this than most grown men I know." "I'm not trying to be better," Kavi said. "I'm just trying not to give up." They sat in silence. Again. By the end of the session, Arlen hadn't spoken, but he was no longer scowling. He looked quiet, not defeated, just tired. Kavi folded the towel, packed the tools. Leon stood and lifted Arlen into his arms. As they walked back to the car, Arlen turned his head slightly. "Can we try again next week?" Leon stopped, then nodded. Kavi didn't smile, just said, "We'll be here." The next Sunday came with a softness in the air, the kind that made trees sway gently and made people walk just a little slower. Kavi arrived early, as always, but this time he brought something new, a long strip of woven cloth, dyed deep maroon, patterned with tiny gold suns. It looked ceremonial, old important. He laid it out across the grass next to the towel. Leon arrived right at noon. No hesitation, no awkward silence, just purpose. He carried Arlen with a kind of steadiness now. Not rushed, not careful like glass, but sure. Arlen looked different too, eyes sharper, back a little straighter. He saw the maroon cloth and tilted his head. "What's that?" "It's called a patha," Kavi said. "My grandfather used to use it for big milestones, birthdays, recovery days, or when a patient stood for the first time." Leon raised an eyebrow. "That what you're planning today?" "I'm planning to invite the body. What it does after is its choice." Kavi knelt beside Arlen. "Can we try something different?" Arlen nodded. "Okay." Kavi took out a belt from his bag, looped it under Arlen's knees, showed Leon how to hold one end. "We help balance. He controls the motion." Leon adjusted his grip. "Got it." Kavi turned to Arlen. "Close your eyes. Picture your knees lifting. Don't force them. Just think it. Tell your brain to call your legs." Arlen shut his eyes, breathed in deep, held it, then exhaled slowly. Silence. Birds chirped faintly in the distance, and then movement, small, barely an inch, but both knees lifted, together. Leon's eyes went wide. "You did that?" Arlen opened his eyes. His face lit up. "I think so." "You didn't think you did," Kavi nodded. "The body remembers, we just have to wait long enough to hear it speak." They spent the rest of the session working slowly, repeating the motion, building rhythm. By the end, Arlen could lift each knee separately. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Leon helped roll up the towel. For the first time, he didn't seem like a CEO or a father. He just looked like someone who'd seen a miracle in broad daylight. He placed a hand on Kavi's shoulder. "Thank you." Kavi didn't say anything, just nodded. And when they got in the car, Arlen turned back one more time. His, voice carried across the wind. "I want to stand on the patha next week." Kavi smiled. "It'll be ready." That night, Leon didn't go straight to bed. He sat in the kitchen long after Arlen had fallen asleep. The silence felt different, not empty, but full of something fragile, possibility. He stared at the fridge, then at the folded towel still drying on the counter. Then he walked upstairs, typed something on his laptop, printed a document, folded it, placed it in a drawer. The next morning, when Arlen came down for breakfast, Leon was waiting. He had eggs on the stove and a question in his throat. "Hey," he said, "would you be okay if Kavi stayed here for a while?" Arlen blinked. "Like, in the house?" Leon nodded. "We have. Guest room. It's warm. He'd have a bed, a desk, books, maybe a little peace." Arlen grinned. Can he sleep in the room next to mine? Leon smiled. I think that can be arranged. That afternoon, Kavi stood on the Barrett's front step, backpack on his shoulders, blanket rolled under one arm. He wore the same green coat, same scarf, but his eyes held something new. Caution, and maybe a little hope. Leon opened the door in sweatpants and a hoodie. Right on time. Arlen appeared behind him. Hey, Kavi, Kavi smiled, shy. Hi. Leon stepped aside. Come on in, welcome home. Kavi stepped inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine cleaner. Photos lined the staircase, a living room filled with light, and for the first time in years, the place didn't feel like a place for grief. It felt like it was waking up. That first week, Kavi barely spoke. He took short showers, kept his backpack close, used only one corner of the dinner table. But he never missed a stretch session with Arlen. Every morning at 7:30. Towel on the floor, rice heated, oil ready. Arlen joked, more now. Laughed sometimes. He even started drawing again. Sketches of him and Kavi running through parks. Flying, wearing superhero capes. Leon noticed. Every sketch was one step closer to a future Arlen hadn't dared picture. One evening, Leon leaned on the counter while Kavi stirred soup. You ever think about going back to school? Kavi paused. Used to. You're smart, you could do anything. Kavi looked up. I want to help people walk again, like my grandfather, like I helped Arlen. Leon nodded. Then we'll figure it out. Together. They didn't say anything more. They didn't need to. That house, once so quiet, now echoed with small signs of life. Footsteps, laughter, the sound of scribbling pencil and soft footsteps, and, for the first time since the accident, Leon realized something profound. Healing didn't always start with doctors. Sometimes it began with a boy on a sidewalk, carrying nothing but a bamboo bag and a reason to stay. It started with a nurse. She was walking her dog past San Antonio Park one Sunday morning, and she saw a boy standing. Not running, not playing, just standing, holding onto a belt looped around the knees. Arlen, and beside him, Kavi. Steady hands, gentle, voice, no machines. Just a towel, a rice pack, and belief. She watched for a while. Didn't interrupt. Then she went home and told her sister, who worked in pediatric rehab. By the following weekend, there were 3 families at the park. One had a boy with cerebral palsy, another a girl recovering from spinal surgery, the third, a toddler born without motor reflexes. They came quietly, no cameras, no signs, just hope in their eyes. Leon parked, farther away that day, watched the scene unfold like something out of a different world. Kavi moved from family to family, explained pressure points, demonstrated stretches, shared how to heat the rice. Just right without a microwave. Arlen sat to the side, drawing, watching, grinning. Later in the car, he whispered to Leon, I like watching him help other people. Leon glanced in the mirror. Yeah, it makes me feel like we're part of something bigger. Word spread, not on the news, but in the way things that matter always do. By whispers, by parents exchanging numbers at clinics, by quiet mentions in support groups. The next Sunday, 10 families showed up. By the one after that, 15, a local pastor. Brought folding chairs. A diner donated bagels and orange juice. Someone handed Kavi a box of resistance bands. No name, the note said. Just keep going. Kavi didn't change much. Still used the same towel, still wore the same green coat, still worked with one kid at a time. But now he had help. Leon helped carry supplies. Arlen guided new kids through simple stretches. Other parents took notes. Some offered to translate. Someone made a flyer. Free movement class. Sundays at noon, San Antonio Park. Bring patience, leave with purpose. They never put Kavi's name on it. He didn't want that. This isn't about me, he said. It's about what we're building. One day, a woman from a community health center showed up, offered to bring a few physical therapists, only, if they come to learn first, Kavi replied. This space doesn't need fixing. It needs respect. They agreed. They listened. They helped. More kids began moving. Not all walked, but some sat straighter, some laughed again. One little girl waved her hand for the first time in months. Her father wept silently into his coat. Every Sunday became sacred. The maroon patha cloth was laid out near the fountain. Kids who showed improvement stepped onto it, not to perform, but to celebrate, to mark a moment. Kavi never stepped on it himself. He said, "My path is still being woven." But every time a child took a step, he stood taller. One Sunday, Leon looked around the park. He saw parents helping each other, kids laughing, therapists watching with notebooks in hand. And in the middle, Kavi, still barefoot, still quiet, still leading. Leon turned to Arlen. "Remember when we thought we were alone?" Arlen nodded. "We're not," he said. "Not anymore." 9 Sundays, that's all it took. 9 Sundays of rice packs, whispered encouragement, and tiny, invisible battles. And a boy who had every reason to quit chose instead to stay. Because of Kavi, a child stood. Because of Kavi, a father healed, and because of Kavi, a forgotten park became holy ground. So, if this story moved you, share it. Not for views, but for someone who's tired of waiting, tired of fighting alone. Because there's a Kavi in every city, there's an Arlen in every hospital, and there's a Sunday waiting to change everything. We don't always get to choose what hurts us, but we can choose how we show up. This isn't about going viral. It's about going forward, together. Leave a comment. Tag someone who needs hope today, and remember, sometimes the world doesn't need another hero. It just needs someone to kneel down, warm the rice, and wait with us until our legs remember how to stand.